Dear citizens, dear representatives of the media, now we're going to have the press conference of the Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Dimitar Kovacevski, and the EU High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Josep Borrell. You will hear from the Prime Minister first. Distinguished EU High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Josep Borrell, dear citizens, dear media. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Borrell for his personal commitment and support for the Republic of North Macedonia to receive a negotiations date without any further delay. In a time of great instability resulting from Russia's military aggression against Ukraine, the need for Europe to be united, strong and fully prepared to defend the democratic values on which it is built has never been greater. North Macedonia, as a NATO member and a candidate country, has placed its position in line with its EU, US and NATO allies since the first days of the conflict. We strongly condemned Russia's military aggression against Ukraine and activated sanctions against the Russian Federation. Until 2 weeks ago, we thought that the wars on European soil were long behind us and that they would not happen again. But today we are witnessing a military aggression in which too many innocent people, including children, have lost their lives. More than 2.5 million Ukrainians are already refugees and have fled their homes. The situation is increasingly alarming day in, day out. In this context, the European Union and all member states need to act strategically and courageously and call for the integration of the Western Balkan countries into the European Union. Only a Europe that is fully united can be a strong Europe. The current status quo is a situation that does not benefit anyone. We all have to find a way to overcome the challenges that lie ahead. My colleague, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria and I have established a new principle of cooperation. We are building bridges of friendship, opening new opportunities for cooperation and connecting the two countries. This is the right way to reach a solution to the dispute. It is extremely important that the European Union and its member states get involved as much as possible, as EU enlargement to the Western Balkans is now both a strategic and a security issue. Integration means a shared commitment to building a strong, stable and united Europe as a home of democratic and civilizational values and forces. The countries of the Western Balkans are closely linked. When there is progress in one country, it is an incentive for progress in other neighbors. On the other hand, the blockade of the accession negotiations of North Macedonia with the EU is felt throughout the region. We need to use our precious time more efficiently. The war that is taking place is a risk of increased influence of third parties in the region, regarding which we must be all extremely careful and prepared. Leaving a geostrategic gap in our part of Europe is not an option. Quick integration of North Macedonia in the region will ensure stability and also the development of Europe. We need predictable, credible, enhanced and accelerated EU integration processes. This government remains committed to reforms and reform processes primarily related to the rule of law, fight against corruption and democratic governance. However, in this time of crisis, I deem that our dedicated work on economic issues and development, as well as good and efficient budget management, is extremely important. Certainly, a strong impetus for faster recovery from the economic crisis will be the strengthened financial support from the European Union, which will additionally enable accelerated energy and digital transformation. Dear media, dear citizens, our vision for the Balkans in the 21st century is a vision of a prosperous region integrated in Europe, where peace, stability and development are no longer put in question, a place where young people want to live, build their families and see their future. It is necessary for North Macedonia to have a crystal clear European perspective on which we expect enhanced engagement from our friends like Mr. Borrell. In this regard, today we reaffirm our European vision and our unity, cohesion and solidarity with European countries and our EU and NATO allies. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Dear attendees, I'm inviting our guest, Mr. Josep Borrell, the High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security and Vice President of the European Commission. You may take the floor.
North Macedonia is the first stop in my trip to the Western Balkans. And I want to start thanking President Penderovski, who I met this morning. And let me thank you, Prime Minister, dear Dimitar, and the members of your government for receiving me at this crucial moment. In fact, my visit comes against the backdrop of the barbaric aggression by Putin on the people of Ukraine. I am repeating, barbaric attack by Putin. That's the Putin's war on the people of Ukraine, not only the military, but the civilians. The Russian armed forces continue to carry an air missile and artillery strikes targeting civilians, peaceful neighbors, exhausting food reserves, hospitals, and schools. In Mariupol, they heavy trap civilians who are being bombed, starved, and dehydrated, as Russia has cut off water. And you could live without heating, but you cannot live without water. They have got food, gas, at temperatures below zero. More than 2,400 civilians have died in Mariupol since the 24th of February, when, dear Prime Minister, we hold a phone call about the situation. It has been 17 days of war. And during 17 days, only 17 days, 2.6 million of Ukrainians, people, have fled Ukraine. It is the biggest movement of people since the end of the World War II. In Europe, we have never witnessed, since the end of the war, such a big movement of people. Maybe now they are already reaching 3 million. These figures from yesterday. But they are continue escaping the country on the bombs of the Russian army. And millions more are at risk. It would not be a surprise that we should be able to host maybe 4-5 million of Ukrainians. They are already almost 3 million in 2 weeks. And a journalist was killed yesterday in Ukraine while he was documenting the madness of this war. And I think that the best way of honoring his legacy is exposing the truth that the Kremlin is trying to hide. But let me say, Prime Minister, here in front of the North Macedonian people, that Putin's war is not only about Ukraine. It's about the respect for international law and principles. It's about security and stability of our European continent. It affects all of us. In economic and political terms, it affects you, it affects the European Union, it affects the world balances. And we have to talk with the future members of the European Union, as you are. We have to speak, to talk, and to raise our voice and to act together. So I have to thank North Macedonia government for the clear condemnation and the strong stance against this Russian aggression and your firm support to Ukraine and to the Ukrainian people. We have put in practice a massive package of sanctions against the Russian leadership in order to avoid to finance this terrible war. Right now, I want to announce it, if you allow me to use this opportunity. I want to announce that we are finalizing the adoption of a fourth strong package of sanctions, a new package of sanctions. This package that will be approved by written procedure by the Council of Foreign Affairs Ministers will include new measures against Russian trade, market access, membership in international financial institutions, crypto assets, export of luxury goods, and targeting of steel and energy sectors. And we are listing more individuals and more companies that are playing an active role on supporting the people who undermine Ukraine's sovereignty by the Russian government. This will be another major blow to the economic and logistic base upon which the Kremlin is building the invasion and taking the resources to finance it. And the decision by your government, Prime Minister, to fully align with all European Union declarations, statements, and restrictive measures on Russia clearly demonstrates your commitment to the European Union values and puts you on the European track, not only as an European Union candidate, but also as a responsible member of the international community, because what we are talking about is about moral choices, not calculation choices, but moral choices. I am sure you are taking this decision on the basis of a moral choice. North Macedonia and this entire region are a strategic priority for us. And we are committed to making the European perspective a reality. And we have discussed about this today with you, Prime Minister. We have discussed about the wider implication of the war for the Western Balkans and how the European Union can help best you to deal with the consequences and increase your resilience. And to this end, we are going to step up our cooperation on cyber and fighting against disinformation, which is so much important, because it's so much important to conquer the spirits and minds of the people. And I would put forward proposals to enhance security and defense in the region. This is, I hope, an awakening moment for Europe. This is the moment to reinvigorate the enlargement process as to anchor the Western Balkans firmly to the European Union. I know that you have clear expectations, and rightly so. And we need to start formal accession negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania as soon as possible. I hope it will be possible in the next intergovernmental conference. And let me say that I perceive a renewed impetus between Bulgaria and North Macedonia, and I encourage both sides to quickly find a mutually acceptable solution to the remaining bilateral issues, because the enlargement cannot be jeopardized or conditioned by bilateral issues. In parallel, work on reforms in North Macedonia in the areas of rule of law, fight against corruption and organized crime, digital transformation and the green agenda will ensure rapid progress when negotiated will be launched. All actors need to work together to advance the European reform agenda, which is first and foremost in the interest of the citizens, and it is the fastest way for the country to progress in the European path. I know, because I've been talking with you and your ministers and many friends that I have in this country, that the concerns that you have, the concerns that the people have on their minds, apart from security, they are rightly concerned about growing prices on energy and food. And via the Economic and Investment Plan, the European Union will finance diversification of energy supply and reducing dependencies. We need that also. We need to reduce dependencies in order to ensure that the prices will not be spiking. We stand with the Western Balkans, Prime Minister. We stand with North Macedonia. We are currently working on how to integrate better and involve more the region in our initiative to address the economic impact of this war, to face future shocks, allow economic recovery, and clean the way to the European Union. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Благодарам.
Thank you. We move on with the press conference. We will take journalist question. I'll remind our colleagues that we have 4 questions, 2 plus 2, 2 for the guest and 2 for the Prime Minister. Telma TV. Good day. I have a question for the High Representative. Mr. Borrell, you've said that you are appreciating Macedonia's commitment about the war in Ukraine and raising its voice, and Europe sees the need for integration. But what, in addition to lip service about the Macedonian membership in the EU, in these conditions for Macedonia to get a negotiation date in June with the EU, or will you take the risk for an increased Euroscepticism in the country that is record high these days, and open the way for other foreign influences in the country? So can you promise that Macedonia will start its negotiation with the EU in June this year? Thank you.
Look, certainly the purpose of my travel is not to increase the Euroscepticism, but just the contrary. It's not to increase the foreign influence in the country. By the contrary, I think that the moment is now. We have been repeatedly communicating and assess that the country is ready to start accession talks. We have communicated that to the member states of the European Union. And the fact that North Macedonia fully aligned with European Union actions and values has demonstrated once again that the place of North Macedonia is in the European Union family. Promise, I cannot promise, but I can assure you that we are doing everything we can in order to make that the accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia will start at the next Intergovernmental Conference, because it's a priority for the European Commission. It's a priority for me personally also. It's a priority, a geopolitical priority on this time. As I said, I hope that the intense work between Skopje and Sofia will bring results, solve the bilateral issues towards a mutually accepted solution, and allow the start of the accession talks, because no bilateral issue can jeopardize any longer the starting of this process.
Благодарам.
Thank you. We move on. Lepa. Good day. I have a question to the Prime Minister. Did you today, from the High Representative Borrell, request European intervention for a date in June? I'm talking about specific steps and not the messages that we've been recently hearing about the compromise with Sofia. So European intervention about a date in June. Thank you for the question. With the High Representative, Mr. Borrell, we today discussed into detail our commitment to the reform process, our implementation of projects that we have together with the EU partners, and we also informed each other on the progress in the talks that are taking place at a new pace together with the Bulgarian government and the colleague from Bulgaria, Mr. Kirill Petkov. As regards the start of the accession talks, we need to say that it depends on the decision of all member states, EU member states, that has to take place at any future meeting where such consent is given by all member states. The talks with the Republic of Bulgaria are run in the spirit of the new pace and dynamics that we have within the resolution that was enacted within the Parliament of the Republic of North Macedonia. And on the outset, I've already said that I'm not tied to dates, but to goals that have to be accomplished to reach a decision that will primarily be acceptable for both sides, because we need to be aware that there are open issues with the Republic of Bulgaria, that the solution to those issues has to be in the spirit of the European values, and they should be based on retaining dignity of both peoples, both countries, and the decision has to be accepted and passed by all EU member states. And the first intergovernmental conference should take place for the Republic of North Macedonia. As regards all of these issues, I talked to Mr. Borrell, and we received a reassurance from the High Representative that all of these talks will be shared with the European Commission on his part. And as he said himself, for the Republic of North Macedonia, such negotiations to start as soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you. CETEL TV, Qatar. Good day to both politicians. A question for both the Prime Minister and Mr. Borrell. In fact, it is the same question and a continuation of what has been asked by my colleagues up until now. You are saying that the EU member states should get involved as soon as possible because the Western Balkans is becoming a strategic and security issue, and you're requesting quick integration because only thus can we count on stable Europe, and you continue your discussions with Petkov, but does this mean specific acceleration of these talks with Bulgaria? That is to say, when can we expect a new meeting at the Prime Minister's level? And specifically, which issues are you going to discuss? Because you're saying you don't want to tie yourself to dates, but the situation with Ukraine is indeed concerning, and therefore we have all of these visits and messages. For Mr. Borrell? You're also saying that you think that the moment is right now for integration. You're communicating with EU member states, and you're communicating that the country should get into the EU. But are you going to discuss this specifically with Bulgaria after this visit to the region to accelerate the process? And will this mean pressure on both sides to make some greater concessions to reach a solution as quick as possible and secure the stability in the region? Thank you. Thank you for the question. First of all, regarding the communication with the Bulgarian government, we communicate regularly both with the Prime Minister Petkov and the line ministries level, since communications with the neighboring country is not only related to political issues on open issues, but also related to daily issues concerning other topics of social and economic lives, such as transport and communications, economy, and so on and so forth. You know that we've communicated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bulgaria regarding the evacuation of some of our citizens that were in Ukraine. With regard to political issues, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on them. They communicate regularly, which takes place at the expert level. And once again, I'll reiterate that at the point at which we have a jointly acceptable solution that should be grounded on European values and be based on positions that reflect the attitudes, the positions of our country declared in Parliament, certainly this jointly reached solution will be shared with all the stakeholders in our country and institutionally presented in line with the constitutional and legal provisions in the country. As regards the EU, the presence of Mr. Borrell in the country sends a clear signal that our place and the place of all the countries in the Western Balkans is in the European Union, that the EU membership not only gives economic benefits for the citizens of EU member states and future member states, but also strengthens the security of the region itself. The EU membership provides a clear perspective of the country's citizens and all institutions in terms of what direction they're taking, which reduces the influence of third parties, third countries whose interests are different from the Euro-Atlantic future of the region. And therefore, I appeal to all EU member states that the Republic of North Macedonia should be given a date for holding of the first intergovernmental conference. Thank you very much.
Look, let's speak frankly. I fully understand the disappointment that many people can feel here in North Macedonia. I understand with my heart. I'm coming from a member state, Spain, that had to wait for a long time also. So I understand your feelings and the feeling of your people. But what I'm saying, and I will repeat, that the accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia is a high priority for the European Union. And that we have repeatedly assessed that the country is ready to start accession talks. It's not a rhetorical declaration. It's a strong assessment, a commitment, a declaration of intention, saying the priority that it has for us. I said, and I repeat, that the decisions taken by the government of North Macedonia align the country still more with the values of the European Union, because it has demonstrated clearly its will to go as quick as possible on this track. But there is a problem, and you know which problem is, and we are trying to solve it using all our capacities of conviction. There is a commissioner in charge of enlargement, my fellow Commissioner Oliver Borrell, who is also fully engaged on this process. And certainly we have been talking with Bulgaria. We have been talking, we will talk, and we will continue talking until this issue will be solved. And the positive thing is that I perceive a much better atmosphere between the two governments, between the two prime ministers, if I may say, with a much better will in order to reach a solution. Because I repeat also that bilateral issues cannot jeopardize any longer an accession process, not even if they are based on ethnic, linguistic considerations. This is our commitment. You ask me, can you promise a date? No, I can promise a will. And there is a will, it will be a way.
Thank you. Dear attendees, this is the end of our today's press conference. Thank you for your attention and have a nice day.